Taneytown Planning and Zoning meeting, please come to order. Stan, George, would you lead us to the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. The commission members should have received the draft minutes for June 29, 2015. Is there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
I only got one that I guess I shouldn't even bring it up, but when we talked about Sheetz last week, and it said everyone was didn't see a reason for rezoning at this time. I'm sorry, I didn't make a motion.
Okay, well you didn't, so that's no change to the minutes.
That's no change. Well, it's right, but still, I just comment.
Okay. Anything else? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Got a motion.
I'll second it then.
Okay, I'll just second it. Any further discussion? Those in favor of accepting the minutes, June 29th, 2015, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you. For action items tonight, first one on the books, on the agenda is Meadowbrook's DRRA revision, determination if it's consistent with the 2010 comprehensive plan.
I'm going to take that one, Mr. Chairman, and set this up for you. All of you are familiar with the background on this, but let me just put a couple things on the record so that they're reflected in what we're doing tonight. You're all aware that Meadowbrook is one of our well-established developments that still has several phases yet to build. And tonight we have representatives from the owners, Prime Venture, we have Dick Hall and Don Hall, and then their primary engineer, Martin Rickel from CLSI, and they're going to make a presentation in a little bit. You have two items to deal with tonight, and they're related, but they're separate items, separate decisions that need to be made. The first item revolves a development rights and responsibilities agreement. And you recall we did one of these back in 2010, which lays out the responsibilities of the developer and the responsibilities of the city in what the development has to have. Back in 2010, we did not have sewer service, we did not have water capacity, we didn't have a lot of things, so the agreement talked about the what-ifs, and it was very heavy with the what-ifs, what had to happen. Since that time, in 2012, we changed the Development Rights and Responsibilities Agreement to grant a longer period of time for the development, 10 years. It was 10 years from 10, but then we wasted 2 years in getting things together, so it became 10 years from 2012. And that was basically the last that we had on this, but as you see, we still don't have any building going out there. So one of the issues that you're going to hear about tonight is the development, which is going to be put up there so you can see it all, consists of a lot of houses. And in today's market, a developer just simply can't afford to build all the houses all at the same time. It requires bonding, it requires infrastructure like the water and sewer. Even though we now have the water and sewer capacity to permit that, they don't have the wherewithal, any developer, to make this happen. So the goal is to divide it into smaller pieces, smaller phases. What the amendment to the DRRA is, and there's specifics that we can get into after you hear the presentation, basically allows development first of 2 sections, and then deals with the address of the issues you know about, like recharge and water capacity and wells and things like that. And simply put, the city has about 100,000 gallons of water capacity that it has and needs to sell. And so why would we develop more wells and more things that cost money and take time when we have enough already? If we were grocers, we have enough soup on the shelves to sell before we order any more. And that's about as simple as it gets. The second item then is what's related to those changes. There's actually a phasing plan, an idea of how to make smaller phases. And they're going to talk to you about how they want to do that and eventually ask for approval for the next 2 phases, or 1 phase and a sub-phase, if you will, an A and a B. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Dick and Don and Martin.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dennis. of you guys, so if I'm a little rusty, we'll get started. I asked Marty to give each of you a copy of the plat. It's basically the same thing that Jim has put on the board for you. We have, just to give you an overview,
Thank you, sir.
Don and I bought this property in 1994. And we had a total of 269 building lots here. Before the market died on us, we were able to get half of those on record, and the houses are out there. And, you know, I'm pretty proud of what's out there so far. I think it's one of the nicest communities in the area. We have an active homeowners association, and they're really serious people trying to do a good job out there. I hope anybody knows anything to the contrary, I'd appreciate it. I'm still involved with them. I'll still go to the meetings, and they're totally have their own officers and staff now. But I stay involved. We have 131 additional building lots that we were not able to market before the economy crashed. And to accommodate a request of the council, we cut this up in 3 sections. The number 1 request was that they wanted Keenan Street to be completed. Keenan Street now stops here, coming in from 194. It stops right here. The council wants it to continue through, and it exists in the adjoining subdivision on the back side. So we said, okay, we'll try to do everything on that side in one move to make everything coordinate with the utilities that have to be constructed over here and all the construction that happens to accompany that. The market, of course, continued to get worse and worse and worse. We were not able to do that. We're coming back to you tonight to say, let us take these 54 lots and make it into 2 sections. It's 27 lots in each section. Marty has worked with your engineers and with Jim on this, and they found that the public sewer conveniently runs in 2 different directions here. So we're able to split it right at a good point so that we're not wasting any piping or anything that's necessary to be done. This is all going to work very well. And 4A, the pink section here, will complete Keenan Street. Put it through, so that should open up the traffic flows out in that area. Now, that's good news and bad news. The folks in the community, we had our meeting a couple of weeks ago, they're concerned about traffic. I'm trying to keep them up to speed. So we may be working with your police department to try to control some of the traffic problems out there in the future. It's progress. It's got to be done. It's the master plan. It's the way things were intended to be from the beginning. It saves a lot of people going out on the state highway and allows cross flow between the 2 subdivisions more readily. So it's a good plan. It's a necessary plan. But we're going to hear some comments about it once it goes on the ground. So I'll be trying to be straight up with you. We have get the numbers. Say it wrong. In section 5, in this area, we have 42 lots planned for the next section. And if this picks up and moves very quickly, we'll probably do 42 of these at one time. Hopefully that's what happens. If not, we may have to come back and impose on you one more time to try to make that into smaller bite-sized pieces. We're approaching $1.5 million to put this on the ground. And the carry cost for front-end loaded dollars is a very serious thing for us until we can get this moving. We are not committed to a builder at this time, but we're committed to the community, and we believe it's going to be successful on the economy back to the point that we can put these 27 on the ground and make a successful operation out of it, continue the quality of what we have back here. Okay? Then in addition to that, we have 35 additional lots here, section 6. And then if you remember from the adjoining project over here, there's other folks who have a small piece over here of 16 lots. Sterling Lepo, I think. as that parcel of land there. So that won't happen until we do 4A, followed up very quickly, we hope, by 4B, then to Section 5, then to Section 6, and that will open up the piping and all the sewer lines and things. And Mr. Leppo would need to move his 16 lots, which have to gravity flow through our project. Any questions?
Where is the 2.4 acres? That is not, that you didn't point out on there.
It's not on this plat, but as you come in across the railroad tracks
Okay?
on Keenan, immediately across the railroad tracks on the left side, that field we've been mowing for years. It was part of the industrial zone back in those
Okay.
days. That's why it was left off of the residential plan. And then years later, you guys came back in and did the Bollinger Farm, changed it from industrial to residential. And you changed my 2.5 acres at the same time. But we have not done any engineering on that because we've been so dead in the water with what we had, there wasn't any reason to move forward there. It's right across.
Okay, I know where you're at, and I think that's what we indicate here is R10,000.
That's correct.
So why is that part of the developer's right and responsibility if it's not part of this plat?
I think, if I may, Mr. Parker, we were trying to, back in the days when the water was non-existent, and the state was giving some very serious conversations about that. You remember that?
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up, because I don't remember it all, but I do remember enough to ask questions.
We wanted to make sure that the Meadowbrook project could get completed. And the 2.4 acres is part of that, the Meadowbrook project. We just couldn't do it because it was zoned incorrectly.
Okay.
It was zoned industrially, and then it became residential after we did the initial planning. So it looks like that's going to be 4 lots in the future as we re-subdivide that 2.4 acres. But Jay suggested, and I was happy that he did, and we were going to ask for that be included in the DRRA initially in 2010 and in 2012, so that the water was allocated for it, and we didn't have to come back and fight about that again.
One of the things, you recall back during that time period, the dark days, right, without water, the health department wanted us to have an inventory of all the lots and had to basically assign a water allocation to the lots. And so in this way, we reserved it, he knew it was reserved, and we just took a guess and said, well, 4 units to that. Since the water line runs right by it right now, we have an obligation to serve it, so we might as well allocate for it. And so the only way we would do that was through the DAR.
Yeah, I think the building rates, which Jim probably has more information on, over the last 6 months, especially over the last 12 months, have given us the encouragement to move forward and do what we're doing right now. So that's why we're here. Marty Rickles here from CMSI. If you have any questions about any of the plans or anything, Jim, you forwarded those up to your engineers, right?
And I need to talk with our engineer and make sure that there weren't any additional city specification changes in the intervening years.
We took the aggressive stance of getting all the sewer, water.
There we go.
Sorry about that. all the sewer, water, streets, sediment control, everything, the full engineering package of record plats and everything is approved for the entire project, 4, 5, and 6. And now that we're breaking this out as to sectional lines here, there's some more lines of limit of contract, that kind of thing that had to be added. And Jim's going to have your engineers verify that we haven't changed anything from the previous approvals. Is that basically it, Jim? So I think we're covered there. That's what Marty tells me. And, we're ready to move. Appreciate it. Anything else?
Questions?
These are all single-family homes? All single-family homes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jim, those, well, maybe Jay can answer, if not you. They're 250 gallons per day on those? Okay. Is that on our current allocation plan that we look at each month, or is this?
No,
Okay.
it's not on that, and that's one of the rebalancing, as I've been calling it,
Mhm.
is that we have to add the excess water that's not being carried every month.
Right, right. Okay.
And that won't happen, there won't be an allocation made until the plats are recorded.
Right.
That's, so right at that point.
Okay.
Have any questions? Jay, I got just a couple of things that maybe would help to refresh our memories. On page 5 of this, how was the date for this period to end set as 2022? What determines that date?
We started in 2010 with a 10-year extension. Okay, so that was
That's what you just talked about earlier then.
Right. And
Okay.
then when we redid the deal in 2012, we did it on May 14th, and we gave them 10 years in 2012. So instead of trying to go through the gymnastics of figuring out how many years that is left, I just took the end date, which would have been 10 years from May 14th, 2012.
Okay. And on page 8, just so I have and make this as short as possible for me. Item 3.6, private utility company. How long does that last if they would decide to do that, to charge back to the residents? Until the debt was paid, or is this kind of like Fairground Avenue used to be years ago when they put the water and stuff in?
I think it's not like Fairground Avenue. It's because that's more of a benefit assessment charge at the city. Until the debt was paid, you have to pay a monthly or quarterly bill. This is run by the actual builder developer out there, and there's one they already collect out there now, don't they?
On one of the sections.
On one of the sections, and I don't know when it ends. Does it ever end?
I think there is a cap end on it based on his cost going in. It's a repayment that the original installed. And that, when we sold those lots to Killigan, we passed that right on to him to work that into the deal as part of his package. So it's a developer's option. We could have done that individually, but we opted not to do it. We sold that right to the developer along with his package.
So, in essence, if you can imagine, we, the city, have impact fees that we charge to collect for our infrastructure, and developers pay that back as they go forward. This is the same model, just moved one step down. The builder, developer now charges the individual homeowners a monthly or quarterly fee to recoup his infrastructure cost of putting it in.
So down the road, X amount of years down the road, if the road has to be repaired, and now it's a city road, so those residents paying twice by paying their taxes plus paying this fee? Or how does that?
They're paying.
Help me understand how this works.
In essence, and again, there's ways you can set it up, so we don't know, but if it costs X amount of dollars to put the water and sewer and utilities in, so it's not the streets and things like that, it costs that much to do it in, to divide it up among the number of houses among a certain time period, like you would a mortgage, and you're paying the guy back for that. So they're paying for the upfront costs, not for the go-ahead maintenance.
Okay.
It's strictly sewer and water, though. It's not.
Not the streets.
Things, roads, curb, gutter, sidewalks,
Okay.
And how many houses are subject to that right now?
there was 64, there's 138 total on the ground there. For instance, I think the first 64 were exempt.
Okay.
So I think the rest are paid out there.
Okay.
And I guess the next one would have been on page 14, 8.2, the transfer and assignment of rights and interests. What safeguards do we have if they would decide to sell that off to someone else? I was trying to, I read this 3 times, still didn't understand it. So maybe can you...
Well, we don't have any additional safeguards. We're safeguarded by this agreement binds whoever it could be sold to. And so what we're talking about isn't the sale of individual lots, it's the sale of the entire project. So if these gentlemen decide to sell their interest to some other people, those people step in and are bound by the same documents. So in essence, it's a safeguard for us because whoever buys is bound by this. This gets recorded in the land records. So if you imagine you were the person that was going to buy their lot, all their property, you do the title search to go through the whole due diligence, you're going to find this and you're going to take whatever you buy subject to this agreement.
Okay. I think that was the only question I had. You have a
Yeah,
question?
I just noticed that you might want to check the spelling of Clara's name.
City clerk?
That might foreshadow that we have this on new. It's easier to hire her than change it.
Yeah, I didn't read the back page. Okay, so is there any other comments? And I guess what we're looking for is a motion saying that this is still in consistence with our master plan.
Yeah, that's just to refresh you, is that we want you to be on board with everything and know all the details, but the actual amendment to this agreement is made by the city council, and our statute requires you all to say anything that happens with the DARA must be consistent with the master plan. So we bring an amendment for you, and normally you've heard them before, like when we say we're going to extend the dates. That's a no-brainer because it doesn't affect it. This one has some effect because you're doing a phasing plan, but it's not really that much different than what it is. And that's really your motion, is to say it's consistent with the master plan.
Master plan of 2010.
Correct.
So I'll entertain a motion for that.
I make a motion that it remains consistent with the 2010 comprehensive plan.
Is there a second to that?
I second it.
Second. Any further discussion? Any comments from the floor or Scott? Okay, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Along with that, we're also looking at approval for the phasing plan. Since we've changed it, section 4, and made it 4A and 4B, we need approval for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the phasing plan for section 4A and section 4B.
I'll second it.
As
Do we want to state it as 4A? We don't want to state it as 4A and 4B because that is, we want to.
That's what's on the plan there.
We want to revise the phasing of the original to reflect 4A and 4B.
It's a revised section 4 to reflect 4A and
And
4B.
Right.
Yeah.
But I understand what
You
you're
said, good.
doing.
I just want to make sure it was cleared for it.
There.
Yeah.
Somebody seconded that, didn't he?
Did, yes.
Jim, you second that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Comments from the floor? Scott? Okay, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, folks.
We look forward to seeing it happen, so
Yes.
it'll be great.
Don, you got any bites on that other place?
Which one?
Down the road, down the street?
You mean the next door?
The counting building.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
No bites?
No, they changed their whole operation so they didn't need the warehouse and the loading dock and all that. So they've got a lot more buildings than they use. I don't think they've had any serious, they great for a contractor that needed that type of thing. It's pretty much a special use building. So nothing in the wind right now.
You got any comments from Jim in here? Did he give me a comment or not? I didn't have any. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again then, folks. Okay.
We'll see you a week from this Wednesday for the public hearing.
Ordinance and agreement review is none. Planning and zoning, Jim?
I noticed I did not do a written report for you guys this month.
I I thought I missed it here.
Answered your question.
Well, I didn't want to sound stupid. No.
Looked for it a couple times, couldn't find it.
All right.
Out for a week, and I've been mostly code enforcement officer and not planning director the last couple months, so.
Okay, then we go into the active projects. Jim, that's still yours.
Okay, do have some updates there. The grading permit for the Road A connection has finally come through. I signed that this week and faxed it back, so they are finally ready to start doing the road improvements and the stormwater and such for that, so that was good news. Nothing new on the crossing. Creekside, they are going to be converting the sediment control pond to the stormwater function, so that has apparently caused a little bit of concern in the community because some folks were under the impression apparently that the pond was going to be filled, which is not really the case. They, will just be converting it from sediment trap to strictly stormwater quantity control. So, so that work, I have not been out to the site to see if they've mobilized anything yet, but we ran it past CDM and they agreed that enough of the development was completed that they could go ahead and convert the pond. Let's see, Carroll Vista Phase 4 has actually picked up the pace a little bit. They're pulling zoning certificates a little bit more rapidly these days than several months ago. Antrim Mini Storage, the sidewalk out front, I don't know if anybody's been by and noticed they've kind of cleared the path for that.
That's really down in there, isn't it?
Yeah, I walked down in there.
That's really down in there.
It's.
Did you look at the drawings?
When I walked down in there, I thought, this can't be right. This does not look right. But then I went back again with the plans and, just eyeballing it and basing it on my height compared to the level of the road, it's pretty much what the plans dictated. But I think with that area being as heavily vegetated as it was, nobody really realized the amount of slope that was there. So we still need to work with them about some clearing some of that scrub vegetation and such out of there, but it's down there pretty good.
We could get right in the middle of the sidewalk and put up tents and live there.
I'd see how we're going to blow snow out of that.
Clear
How
all
are
the,
we going to blow snow out?
They're not.
so I
15 feet deep.
I talked to them on Friday, and I have to talk to them again this week because they want to get going on the sidewalk there. So we need to talk about some fine grading and seeding and stuff like that. So
Okay.
it's typically the plans don't call for. There's a note on the plans that say any disturbed area will be fine graded and seeded, and I don't remember the exact language, but kind of like with Dollar General. There weren't specific items called out on the landscape plan, but everything within that disturbed area got graded and seeded with grass seed. Well, most of that scrub stuff is within the limits of disturbance, but I'm a little concerned that they're going to argue, well, we didn't disturb it, so we don't have to seed it. So that's a conversation that I'll be having with them this week. So,
Okay.
But at least when reminded about the sidewalk, they did move ahead and start to construct it. So apparently they had forgotten that was part of the plan.
Conveniently.
Yeah.
So I mean, they
Some of the
are
ground took away from that.
approaching the end. We've got their stormwater management agreement ready to go.
Pleasant Valley Road, you can use some of that ground here and fill that in and make it level.
Nearing completion.
Okay.
Nothing new on sheets. No word on the gateway sign that they reserved space for there. When it's come to our economic development coordinator was instructed to contact Sheets and see if they would be willing to participate in the cost of that sign, and there seems to be some difficulty scheduling a meeting with them about that. So
Where is the sign going to go? Because the pond takes pretty much the whole front now.
It's up at the top of that slope above the pond, and it really is kind of a tight fit because
It's going to be a tight fit.
like right next to that area that was reserved is some conduit that passes right by there. So it's there's not a lot of extra room outside of that footprint for construction activity, so we'll see. It's going to end up coming down to a monetary decision, because we've got, nice drawings of a sign, but we need to decide if we're going to pay for it, or if it's going to happen, we may need to pay for it. It's going to spring for that. So that's about it on sheets. And Dollar General, we finally have at least a PDF version of the signed stormwater management agreement. I do not know if Clara, our city clerk, has received the original at this point, but the developer did eventually reach out to the property owner, and they did sign off on the agreement. So it sounds like really the
Whose arm did you bend to make that
they were
happen?
working with.
He wrote the letter. It worked.
Is your letter that worked the magic?
Right. So I sent the letter. He pursued things with the property owner, and there is talk of a potential sale of the property, which I think also encouraged the owner to take care of it so that they would not have any difficulties with that transaction going forward. So that's kind of a happy ending on that one. So we can now look forward to closing out their surety and releasing their escrow and over the next few months, and having them drop off the list. And that's about it, unless anybody has questions for me about projects.
Okay. Jay, you're not on here. How come?
I'm not on there. The Dara was my big trick. So.
You miss a month. You said they just.
I did miss
Sorry
a month.
about that. I did not put him back on
But
after last month.
One of the things I'm sure I missed last month was the celebration. You did have the ribbon cutting of the manhole. We were talking about putting a plaque and stuff together.
For George.
Still may happen, okay? But
Smile, George. Scott?
Nothing for this month. We'll say that November 4th, I think, will be our next joint planning commission meeting between the municipal planning commissions of the town, and the county municipal planning commission. So that's a few months away. I'll let you know as the closer to the date whether that sticks or not. And then I had a question for Jay regarding the 100,000 gallon per day allocation. Is that a total figure, or is that something that's just dedicated to residential?
it's a total, like a rough net. Our permit is, make up the numbers, let's say 500,000, and our current usage is 400,000. So stopping all the leaks in Main Street netted us 100,000 gallons of production savings. So we can use that to allocate. But it's not divided up in a pie yet.
Guys thinking about doing that maybe?
Yeah, it's the plan is, we're still at a net loss if you take everything that was supposed to be built and then total it up. We still don't have enough water for everything. But the idea was if we can do it in small pieces with the people that actually need it, we can get their revenue in to help pay us back. And then by the time we get to the point where we don't have enough, then we can start talking about it. And that's more a matter of recharge. Right.
That's and the permitted capacity.
Right. City policy, I mean, there's no official vote on the city policy, but at least the policy that we've been following is if we had to choose, there is no need to invest any more money in infrastructure, bricks and mortar. We have the wells we need. That doesn't mean we don't want to reserve well sites, but a developer coming in saying, I want to give you a well, or would you want another well, is no, we don't, because they cost $1 million a piece and we have to maintain them and they don't really help us. We have good wells, but we need more recharge to expand their capacity. So when we get to that point, and that's one of the things that this accomplished, was it bought us, let's say, 2 more years of money coming in until we have to examine, do we need to buy recharge, or has the state rules changed? Because remember, in the words of your attorney, that's all fake, okay? The recharge happens whether you own it or not. So maybe by the time 2 more years pass, maybe we wouldn't be wasting city money on buying easements like we've been talking about. So that's kind of our plan, is that we have enough float now to spur on development to try to get cash flow to start making it work.
Okay, before we move on to our comprehensive update plan, you gentlemen have something, anything for this commission? Or are you just here as a guest, or?
We're here as guests. My son is here to attend for citizenship in the community, Boy Scout participation, and it's a good learning experience. If you don't mind us being here, or maybe
Not a problem.
could he ask a couple questions after you've taken care of business?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Jim, we'll pick up on chapter 3.
Yep. All I really had for this evening was a quick update on some of the stuff we had talked about. The capital improvement program a little bit last month.
Should be starting.
And I did,
Right here, sir.
as indicated last month, I touched base with Public Works Department, and they provided some updates on that list of capital improvement things in the comp plan. As you probably already know, Baltimore Street water main was completed. The storage tank is going to remain, but they may update it to a larger capacity to 800,000 gallons. The water tank rehab project is going to be, and Public Works and the city manager are working on developing a new capital improvement program. So we haven't adopted one for several years because the budget has been so tight. We just didn't have the ability to take on more projects. So the last CIP, the last improvement program that was passed, was a 6-year program, and those 6 years have already gone by with, many of the projects just being deferred because of the budget. Anyhow, so the tank rehab will stay in there. There's only one water main extension proposed right now that's going to be in the new capital improvement program, and that's going to be the Antrim Boulevard. They would like to continue the water line. It currently stops at the fire hydrant at the southeast portion of Antrim Mini Storage at the part where the sidewalk goes down the hill. And we'd like to be able to tie that line into the line in Trevanion Road, and it'll give us kind of a loop so that then if we do have an incident, say at the shopping center, and mains need to be cut off to do repairs, that with the system having a loop, it'll still be able to be fed from another direction. So it may provide the ability for us to have smaller outage areas if we do have water main breaks. So I know that's one that Public Works has been wanting to do for a number of years now. And let's see, and recharge land is a little bit of a question mark because we still need to talk through that policy, as Jay was mentioning a few minutes ago. Baltimore Street sewer line, that's been the cured-in-place pipe, that project's been finished. York Street pump station is complete. There will be some sewer line repairs and replacements in the new CIP, but Rick didn't give me specific locations on those. And he is not targeting any stream restoration projects that were mentioned in the comp plan. He's not have any that are planned to be in the capital improvement program this time around. So that's all I've really got. Just wanted to kind of update that list. And should we become aware of some needs as they're going through that program, we certainly can have some input, but it will come before you when it gets to be in draft form. I think, gosh, it's probably been 7 years since we adopted one, but I believe it did come, the city manager, I think, presented it to the planning commission prior to the public hearing on it, so we'll be following that path again this time when a draft is ready, but that's probably not going to be for a few months. So, and then of course when that is ready, we can update the project list in that chapter for the comp plan update. So that's really all that I had for this month.
The water tank that Jim Schumacher had out here, is that still anywhere, or that was just one of his ideas?
It was I think there were some sound reasons to it in terms of, ensuring fire flow and having a certain number of days, reserved if something catastrophic were to happen with one or the other of the storage towers. But we also haven't seen the growth that we were anticipating when Jim was city manager. So that's been kind of pushed down a bit. I think we had a potential site on some county-owned property that the elevation was pretty good for it, but we haven't, the need that was anticipated then hasn't really arisen, so it's been pushed off.
What do you foresee for the next month's meeting then? Or haven't we got that far yet? Well,
I think the demographics, I don't know that we really need to sit here as a group and
we'll just put numbers in to take care of that.
that's gonna
Hands
be
on it today.
with Scott.
Pick that up from Scott, yeah.
And state to get all the statistics updated.
That can't be it.
Well, we can come up with that a little bit later, I guess. No problem.
So, I mean, chapter 4 is demographics and projections. And the next chapter after that is land use and growth management. I'm a little hesitant to jump right into that because I think some of the, I'm not sure quite how to say this. I feel like the land use and growth management piece that we need to talk a little bit about the community facilities and some of the other topics to sort of feed into the land use piece. Otherwise, I think we end up falling into the trap of looking at colors on a map and responding to what property owners want for those parcels rather than seeing what the needs are or what the what our absorption rate is for the different categories of properties and things like that. So I don't think we're ready to jump into land use and growth management at this point, I guess is the short version.
No, but maybe we should start, or maybe I suggest that you maybe start a running list of items that we should be talking about, like the sheets and or the old sheets was as being one item, and any other item that we may want to think about as we go through this, so that when we get to that point, we can talk about them.
I'd like to bring the old sheets up tonight again.
We can't. It's up to you when I make the round, when I come around. But I mean, we can't make any action.
Huh?
Scott?
I would concur with Jim. Generally, when we update a plan at the county level, the land use chapter ends up being the last piece of the puzzle that we address, and everything from community facilities to transportation kind of feeds into that. So probably a good chapter.
Okay. All right, is that it then, Jim? All right, we'll go around the table. George, you have anything?
No, I don't have anything new.
Nothing new today, no.
Ollie?
I'm still haunted with the idea that I didn't make any kind of a motion or anything on the old sheets last week to even get it to council.
I think the
Because I
general
don't think it's a
concept.
bad thing. If we don't do nothing, I still feel we've done wrong. Right?
I kind of agree with you, and I've been bouncing around too. Is what harm would it be, or what good would it have by doing it or not doing it? But when we do the update, then that definitely is the time when we need to do it.
But what's going to happen between now and the update, which is going to be when? How many years?
It's not a matter of years.
And
It should be, Jim, you're looking at within 12 months, I'm saying.
I think that may be a little optimistic, but for me, it's going to be the water resource element is a concern for me, and that may be something that we talk about in the next month or two. I did talk to our state planning liaison within the last month or so, and she again offered to have someone come out and do a presentation on the water resources element or to assist us. But I think maybe just a presentation about it to help explain what's involved in that may be helpful to hear that earlier in the process, even though we're not quite ready to jump into that element yet. It's almost like a catch-22 sort of thing. In the water resources element, the state, I guess, advises, according to the guidance documents, to develop all the other parts of the plan first and then do your water resources element, which will tell you whether your plan is achievable or not based on those environmental factors. But that seems a little bit wasteful to put that effort and energy into a plan only to find out at the end, oh, guess what? We can't do that because we can't meet our upper Monocacy TMDL. So I think it really needs to be sort of on a parallel track, especially when we start those conversations about the land use and growth chapter, that we kind of need to have an idea what is doable as far as the water resources element before we say we want this 100-acre parcel to remain R10,000. That's going to be however many houses, 300 new houses, and what's the impact on the watershed going to be? So maybe water resources element is something that we can at least get a presentation on to get a little more comfort with it, so that that's kind of in the back of our minds as we go through the other chapters as well. I think that's one of the bigger changes that we're going to have to face this time around. I don't know if you have any comments, thoughts on that at all, but let's...
I'll come back to you in a minute. Okay. Back to your question, Ollie.
Yeah.
I think, well, Jay, unless you want to answer that, but maybe our liaison should take.
Well, I was going to give
some feedback
just
from the council.
Stake out some things. Is that I keep hearing about the zoning change for the old sheets, and there really is no practical way to change the zoning. And I think we all know that, but I want to make it clear is that there is no way you're changing the color of that parcel on the map unless you do a comprehensive rezoning. And there's no appetite for that because of the time and effort it takes, especially since you're going to have to do it with hand in hand of that. So the only change we're talking about that is even possible, whether you want to do it or not, is changing the text of the zoning code to allow for drive-throughs. I mean, that's essentially, I'm sure there's other things we'd want to talk about, but essentially allowing drive-throughs in that zone, which would mean anywhere in that zone unless we could narrowly tailor it, which is basically the issue that you would say, okay, we want to allow it at the old sheets but not anywhere else, and we'd have to figure out how to do that. That could be done quicker, relatively quicker, but that would require the council to say, figure this out. And I'll let the councilman talk about the issue that the council brought up, but it's like we're getting the cart before the horse. So what would I do to guess what he wants is the idea. I don't know, and that's where Mr. Wance can talk to you about.
Right. Well, my question, just because you made that mention of how do we allow it there and not elsewhere, can we restrict it by size of property?
Well, I mean,
because that is a fairly large property considering it's downtown. Is that correct?
I mean, there are things that can be normally done in a situation. I don't know if we could apply it there. And you look very clever, you're almost kind of like winking and nodding, saying, well, it's a parcel when it's on a main street and it has a alley behind it, and you make it so it's narrowly tailored, and that's not spot zoning because you're not changing the zoning. You're only allowing probably what would be a conditional use because you want to have some hearings and vettings of what you do. So it's possible, but it takes effort to do. And the issue that I heard at the council meeting was they didn't have an appetite for even trying to guess what we want, because the property owner is kind of saying, well, I'd like this. And I guess I got to kind of remember exactly what they said, but it was almost like, and I'm making this completely up now, if Kentucky Fried Chicken comes here and says they need X, Y, and Z, come to us and we'll see what we can do.
Right.
But we're not going to do X, Y, and Z and find out you really need A, B, and C.
And I thought that's
And
what we had talked
that's
about
what
in the last
we-
meeting.
yeah.
That's what I felt we decided last month was, we don't do anything until he comes to us with more
We
information.
didn't say no.
We didn't.
That's a good point, and that's the point I think I even said.
Right.
that
I
he
think
needs-
that's what we're trying to say, is that at
But-
this point, doing
But
anything
what-
would be.
What I want, I'm trying to find out here, are we in an agreement that if we can help a business, are we going to do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Sure
that's
we
the
are.
piece.
I think
But we,
within.
we need to know up front
Right.
whether.
I
what are
agree,
they-
I even said that last week. I
And
agree with
until
that.
someone comes to us,
Totally agree.
Right. See,
And-
and
And I
that
would
was my
like to
concern
see
is
him
if-
here.
Right. That was my thing, was if he comes in and says, well, I want to allow a drive-through. So we say, okay, well, we'll make it so that that property can have a drive-through somehow through some sort of witchery or whatever. But then he comes back and says, well, that fell through, now I want this. And I don't want to start that progression of.
Right,
And I
right.
think you can see the value in us not doing that. I think we're all, if I speak for everyone, we're all interested in doing something to help
Can-
that property.
Can you drive through on an alley? Can you drive through and come out on an alley?
Well, you
we
can't.
don't have to
drive
worry
away
about that. You
there,
really don't
but-
have an alley, because you got the Vanion Road, you got the Vanion Road and East Palmer Street.
Well, I do, that's
Right.
Two
there.
major
But suppose
thoroughfares.
I buy 2 or 3 properties and say, well, I've got an alley in the back, I could drive through.
Well, that's why you don't,
the
that's why you don't want
Talked
to do it
about.
by how many square feet's in that property,
Well,
because if
that's
somebody
correct,
buys
but
up
if-
3 houses,
But as I mentioned to council, if we look into doing some sort of ordinance to govern the combination of properties, it'll help us nip that in the bud. Because right now, I mean, we approved the one last month, but as we said, there's nothing involved. And I think a public hearing at the very least should be required for that, because the neighbors could see something that we don't. It's like, well, if he just bought those 3 buildings and he wants to combine them, next thing you know, he's gonna tear it down and build, a mini mega mall. And
Yep.
it may be within zoning.
They just did that in Emmitsburg.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when it comes to the combining of properties, we need to have something in the books declaring, okay, these are the steps that now have to happen.
That day's we're gonna be confronted with that one of these days.
Right.
Someone's gonna buy up 2 or 3.
We already are. We already are.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where that'll help us nip that in the bud. If we can then say, well, I know you bought 3 and you want to put a drive-through, but it's up to us whether you can combine them and do that.
well, we're back to the same way. We need the,
Need to know what's gonna
we
be.
need somebody to come to us and say, this is what we want to put down, and I've got to,
And then we can work our magic accordingly.
and we can go from there.
That's what I want to know.
Yep.
And we all in agreement.
Try that, or are we just going to say no?
Nope.
We're not,
Because that's what I heard
Again,
last
I
week.
don't, no, I don't think so.
Weren't saying.
Maybe that's
And
what you heard, but
that
that's not
kind
what
of
we.
disappointed me, and
Oh, no,
it bothered me all month.
Our vote was for no action because of lack
Right,
of information.
I know that.
Right.
And
And
I
so,
agreed with that, because I
Right.
went along with it.
no, that's where we are. I think we're all on the same page.
Okay,
It's, yeah.
okay.
Did you have anything
I'm
else?
good with that.
Do you have anything else?
No.
Jim? I guess no, we'll talk to these gentlemen later. For some reason, I have next month on the 24th. Why do I have down on the 24th, not the 31st?
Should be 31st.
Was there something going on and somebody couldn't make the 24th?
Well, I wouldn't be here the 24th. I'm on vacation that week.
Well, that doesn't count.
Right.
I didn't know there was something in Ocean City going on, or,
I won't be here either, because I'll be down to Ocean City too that month.
That's the
well, what's going on in Ocean City?
Ocean City. period.
Vacation, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. But the city council, nobody's, great?
No. Well, I thought it was the last.
For some reason, I had it down for the 24th as plan and zoning.
Yeah,
For the
no,
first,
I was
right?
talking about August at all.
Because they're all talking they can't come on the 24th.
I scheduled my vacation.
31st.
making sure-
31st,
Yeah.
okay, 31st.
31st.
Okay.
All right. I just wanted to clear it up, because I'm going to go to Ocean City then.
You're gonna be in Ocean City.
No, I don't care for Ocean
I
City.
always make sure I don't mess with planning and zoning when I make a vacation, so.
Okay.
Now you're telling me I did. Maybe.
All right.
We're good. We're good. We're good.
Nothing else before the commission. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.